Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. On today's episode, we are talking comedy with one of my favorite comedians, Paul Virzi. I've known Paul for a while. His career is exploding, continues to just grow. He's doing amazing shit. He's got an amazing podcast. It's Laugh Out Loud Funny. He's one of the greatest ranters I know, and his podcast is ranting and raving on all sorts of subjects. So if you haven't checked out Paul Virzi, make sure to check out his podcast, The Virzi Effect. He also has one with Bill Burr that he's going to tell us a little bit more about, and a Comedy Central special with that Bill Burr produced. So with that being said, let's bring on our guest on Next to Madison, Paul Virzi. How are you?
Well, thank you for that nice intro there. That was, usually you got to tell people things, and you kind of nailed you got the bullet points without even talking to me about it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I know what's going on in people's lives. I follow my friends. So yeah, you've had a great comedy career. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I guess my first open mic was like 20 years ago, but I don't really count the first 3-4 years. The first 2-3 years in New York, I can't really count because there was no place to get up, so it was kind of like doing a bringer show, and then like months go by. So I would say I probably started going hard at this in maybe 2003.
Okay.
So I've probably been a pro for so I've been a professional probably for about 16, 17 years. And then the first few years just kind of doing contests and open mics and, bringer shows and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's been a while, but fun ride,
Yeah.
For sure.
No, and it's been great. And you've got a special out now that Bill Burr produced.
Yeah. Bill Burr and All Things Comedy. The funny thing about my special, which a lot of people didn't realize, was it was never going to have anything to do with All Things Comedy or Mike Bertolina, Al Madrigal, Bill Burr. It had nothing to do with them. It was actually the person that wanted to produce my first special was Pete Davidson. Pete and I are great friends. Pete's actually going to direct my next special. But
nice.
So Pete was the one who was going to produce I'll Say This, and he still is an executive producer of it. But I had a falling out with one of the production companies we were working with. And let's just say things were not done the right way on their end. And I pulled out because I was being mishandled business-wise. And I found something out that could have hurt me about 6 days prior to shooting.
Oh, shit.
So I was like, no, this doesn't make sense for me. This doesn't make sense for my family. I'm not doing it. And Pete was so cool, and my agents were so cool that they were like, yeah, if you got to back out, you got to back out. And then that's when All Things Comedy, that's when Al Madrigal, Bill Burr, Pete, they all got me on a conference call, and they said, hey, All Things Comedy wants to get into specials. Let's make yours the first. We heard about the fallout. This is good timing. And the amazing thing, Madison, is during this pandemic, the special got seen more than when it came out in 2018, because when it came out in 2018, Comedy Central aired it, and then, you only allowed a certain amount of clips, because of licensing. Pandemic happens, and they let us release more on YouTube, and people were going, oh, your special was one of our favorites of 2020. I'm going, it was 2 years ago, but so much happened, and so many people were able to see it that I had viral, TikTok 5 million on one bit and all this stuff. And I had no idea.
That's awesome.
So the pandemic was actually something that made, I think, since people were home and I had access to more of footage of my own special to put on YouTube, then people started to see it.
Isn't that great? But
Crazy.
It is great that we do, social media is caused so much downfall, but it's also had such a positive effect. You don't need all these people to make it in the business. You can kind of take, your own stuff and really crank it up to what you want. So you're not as controlled by the industry as previous comedians are.
Yeah. So I definitely would say right now is the best time for a comedian if you're doing your own shit right now, like what Shane Gillis and John McKeever are doing right now is basically they have a sketch show Shane was going to do the SNL thing. He lost that because of everything that, that was going on. Somebody went back and looked at something that he said, and he didn't get that gig. And what did he do? He decided him and his buddy are going to say, okay, well, you know what? These are the times we live in. And now they have they have a hilarious sketch show. They do it on their time, their schedule. They release them in their sequence of doing it. And it's you see guys like that, Tim Dillon, and certain people that are just like, I'm just going to get my own cameras. I'm going to get my own studio. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to put it on YouTube. I'm going to promote it. That wasn't the case in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I don't even think that wasn't even the case up till about 7, 8 years ago. I think the first person that did it, and he did my podcast, the first person that did it was kind of in a way was Tom Green, because before Tom Green did the show on MTV, he was doing that himself, like in the streets, and then got the show because of that. So he was like the original. That's why they call him like the OG of it, because he started it.
Yeah, that's right. So, and I haven't seen his recent stuff. Is he still doing stuff?
Yeah, Tom is doing stand-up now. He's doing his own thing. He's putting his own stuff out. He's got cameras in his house for his own podcast. But he is really like the original back when nobody was doing it. And it looked like, oh, this guy's just taking it. But now it's like, you don't need – the funny thing is you don't need the people that had the power or the gatekeepers. Right. Now it's kind of like, look, I'm doing this with or without you, right?
That's the best, right?
And it is the best, because what it does is it takes away the power. Like, I noticed so many things during this time. And one thing that I noticed was things that we were scared and insecure about. We're all fucking insecure, and I want this person to like me, and I want this booker to fucking like me. Meanwhile, they never walked in my shoes. They never did a set in their life. Yeah. And I'm putting all of my confidence, my security, my home personal life, all of those things that we harbor and we feel bad about ourselves when somebody doesn't like us. Meanwhile, it's some fucking literally nobody that just knows an owner of a club, and the owner of the club said, why don't you book it? These are the comedians, you could pick who you, and we're worried about that. And it's like, it really is silly. Now, listen, for younger comedians listening to this, unfortunately, you do have to play that game.
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to get to a spot in my career where I did that for so long, but all my focus was getting better at stand-up. Mm-hmm. And then I got to a point where it is very amazing and humbling to be able to walk into a club when you're not booked, and they kind of sometimes will go, hey, man, do you want to go up tonight? That's a nice – it was a dream of mine to have that. And listen, that doesn't happen everywhere, but it does happen some places. And it's nice to do that. And you do have to earn that. Mm-hmm. But you also need to know, even as a young comedian, some of the things that you think are important and some of the people that you think are important are not.
Yes.
Okay? Getting passed at that club doesn't mean shit. Because think about this for a second. How ridiculous is it that you're worried about getting past in this club, You want this booker to like, I hope this booker likes me. And then that booker loses their job, and then the next one likes you immediately. What does that even tell you? So it's almost like, it's like a sick mentality. It's almost like a crazy, it's like a lunacy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a hamster on a wheel is what it is.
Yeah. And I think the thing that holds comedians back, or anyone in life back, is just the fear of what other people will think, or fear of not being liked. So you kind of start operating under a false, pretense, so to say. So you're not being your authentic self. And then all of a sudden you're behind where you could have been had you just stepped out and let that fear or that thought of, they always say the most powerful people in the world are the people that don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about them.
I always had this thing in the back of my mind coming up where I was like, man, I'm funnier than some of these people. And then I'd be like, but that's an arrogant way of thinking about it, so you can't think of it like that. But I'd be like, but wait a minute. Like, so I'll give you an example. There was a contest in the early 2000s in Manhattan to go to a Vegas festival. Okay.
Okay.
and they were auditioning people. And the guy that I missed the audition in New York, and I saw the person that won it. And now this is not to be arrogant. This is just to say about believing in yourself and not giving up. Basically, I'm going off of what you said. So the short of it is this: there was a contest, and if you won the contest in your city, this new Vegas festival would fly you out to Vegas. You'd perform in front of agents and stuff, and blah blah blah. It was a newer festival, but at the time, it's like 03, 04. It's an exciting thing to do. I saw the guy who won it in New York. I was doing shows with him, and I'm going, man, like I think I'm just more talented and funnier. And that was my honest thought. It wasn't being a dick. It wasn't saying that he wasn't funny. I just thought I was bringing more to the table with my show and performance. But I missed the New York audition. He didn't, and he gets it. Then I look at and I missed the Boston one. So I'm like, shit, where could I go? I drove 15 hours for a 3-minute audition in Chicago, and I won it. And they flew me out. And the point of the story is I knew that if the guy that won in New York could win, I knew what I was bringing to the table. Now, over the course of years, I started to realize, now listen, there are times you doubt. We're always going to doubt.
Mhm.
I still to this day, even, thank God things have moved in my career the right way and just moving up always. But you still have doubts. You still have bad sets. You still question yourself. But when you get validated by certain things, like, a peer or like somebody sees you and says, hey man, like that was really like special thing. You have to eventually start to believe in what you can do.
Yeah.
Right. And like a good pitcher is going to go out and be like, I'm going to strike more people out than I'm not tonight.
Yes.
That's what needs to, so confidence in yourself. And so it is not giving up, but it's also knowing who you are when you walk into a room. And it took a very, very long time. It takes a very long time to get there, but I agree with you. If you stick it out, and it eventually goes. You obviously can't give up either. So,
right, and we're talking about obviously comedy because that's what you do and what I do, but it really applies to like everything in life.
It does. It does.
You can actually like see it with people that have been very successful. They have this type of confidence. It's not necessarily a lot are arrogant, but it's not necessarily the arrogance. It's the belief in what they're doing and themselves. And
yes.
Not,
and there's a line between the confidence and the arrogance, because.
And it's a fine line. It's a very fine line.
It is. You're 100% right. It's a very, very fine line because I remember something weird happened to me where when I started getting better and then I started to get good, like to the point where I knew that I was really making waves, that was when I got more insecure. The better I got, the more I questioned myself. It was very, very weird. So I had to find out like what's going on. And I asked some close friends and people that were close to me and they were like, yeah, that's a growth spurt. Like I would go like, I'm killing harder than I've ever killed. I'm better than I've ever been, yet I'm questioning myself and I'm more insecure. And I feel like, no, that's a growth spurt because when you're vulnerable and you're insecure like that, there's an honesty that people can see and feel. If you just get off stage and you're an arrogant dick all the time, and then you always think you're the shit, well, that doesn't really leave room for growth, in my opinion.
100%. You're 100% right. Yeah.
If you walk off stage like, oh, I'm the shit, then where does the getting better? Where's the growth come? Because then you're kind of just staying here saying I'm the shit.
Yep. Exactly.
And so for me, I think I almost got scared and not freaked out, but almost like, wow, like I'm starting to get better, but now I really need to work. See, with me, it's always work more. It's always like, get better. It's not good enough. I can be better because one thing that I do, and I think every comedian should do this, is you need to look at where you were 5 years ago. You need to look at where you are today, and you need to look at where you think you're going to be in 5 years. So that window. So now I look back, right? So it's 2021. Right. And I've never actually broken down the timeline like this, but you got me thinking now. So it's 2021. So let's go back 5 years. That's when my first album came out, Night at the Stand. Did very well. It was #1 on iTunes, #4 on Billboard. I worked so hard, but it was my first hour I ever put out. It took me 14 years. I didn't want to do anything before that because I know it's going to be out there forever.
Yeah.
You know, some of these fucking guys are like, yeah, I'm on my third album. You're doing comedy for 4 years. It's like you don't want that out there.
No, because it's a lot road.
Yeah, it's like you don't want that. So, okay, so 5 years I did my first album. Then in between that time, now I see where I did a special, and now I got to where I'm at right now. And now I look at 5 years from now, and as long as things are moving, but it's what you put in, man. You really, it's like what you said. It's what you put in. I used to knock doors, phone, cable, internet, knocking doors at night in Queens and Manhattan. And I almost got fired because I fucked off and I didn't really do it the way I should have done it. And then when I was about to be fired, I was like, let me see what I could really do. And then I became a supervisor, but I learned when you're tired and you want to go home, knock 10 more doors. And every time I would do that, those would be the sales that I would get. Those would be like the over the top numbers that I would get because everybody's home eating dinner. And you know, I almost said comics, these salespeople would knock on doors and be like, dude, it's 6 o'clock, man. I'm done. I'd stay out till like 8 or like 7. I get my sales. And then that's when and it's the same thing in this, but you also do have, let's be honest, you do have to have talent. You do have to be funny.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You know?
Very true.
You could work super hard and get up every night, but there does need to be something there.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's always growing too, not just getting up and doing the same stuff. I know that I did that for a while. It's like you would try to do new stuff and then you'd get on stage and you would start defaulting back to the stuff that you knew that worked because you felt so vulnerable that you're like, oh, well, if it just doesn't work. But then as you get more confidence, you're like, well, this show isn't going to make or break me. I'm here to work on my craft. And it was also became the thing of, is it a paid show? Is it not a paid show? You know, if it's a paid show, you wanted to bring your best stuff because you're getting paid. If it wasn't, that was your time to do all new stuff. And if you were defaulting to that stuff that you know that works, you weren't growing.
Yeah, that's I couldn't have said it better. That's, you know, and it is, you do get to a confidence where you're like, look, I'm funny. I know I'm funny. And the majority of the people in this room know I'm funny. So I'm just going to, it doesn't make sense to do what works always, because what you're doing is you're doing a disservice. I used to drive into New York City. And when I first drove into New York City to do stand-up, I would do what worked because I needed clubs to like me. Yes. And then once they did know who I was and they liked me and they knew I was funny and they trusted me, then they trusted me as a professional that I was to go and work. But you do have to, we are talking about different levels of comic, right? If you're a new, like when I first drove into the city, it's like, do what works. Yes. Right. You know, you're not going to, that first impression of a club or a booker, you want to kill and let them know, give them your best stuff. Absolutely. But then you get to a point where you're like, it doesn't make sense for me to drive to the city and do that joke that I know works. Exactly. Right. Because you're just holding yourself back. That's all. Yeah. In a way. And I think that a lot of people default to that because they're, you know, it's hard to be up there sometimes when people aren't laughing. It's like you feel every just organ in your body like comes to a halt. You're like, yeah. No, I'm sorry. I said you just got to fight through it, you know? Yeah, and I think what happens too is when you get to a certain point, even during the bomb is not going to hurt you as much. No. So it's like it goes from like devastating for like a week or two to then like, and then less and less. And then if you just totally eat a dick sandwich and bomb so bad, then you're like, all right, look, you know, I'm getting up in a day or so and and then we always try to question what happened, what went wrong. You know, why did the plane go down? What could I have done? And then it's just like, look, sometimes it's not in the cards, whether it's the crowd, whether it was you doing a different order of jokes or the jokes that you started with, no matter what it was, and you could beat that to death. It doesn't matter. It's like, I remember bombing in the city or just not having a good set. And this is probably within the last couple of years. Like I remember just driving home and going like, all right, like it didn't, I knew that I was growing because it didn't bother me as much. Yeah. Because it was like, all right, like what am I going to do? Like take this home with me? And like, it's like, I do comedy like that. You know what I mean? Like it's if my percentages are 90% winning, then there's got to be 10%.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And you know what? It's also humbling, but it also makes you grow. You're like, all right, what can I do better? How can I alter that joke, make it, land better?
Yeah.
But a lot of times you just can't control, the audience.
Yeah, it's like there are gonna be nights where things just whatever reason just don't go. But like, just trust in yourself, keep writing and dig deeper. And I noticed that like the cool thing about comedy is, and it took me so long to know this. I wish I knew this. That if I knew now, if I knew then what I know now.
That's how I feel about crypto.
Yeah, right. I know, right?
I think I'm doing so well. God, if I had just known everything last April.
Yeah, like buy a Bitcoin for $11, like when people thought you were a psychopath, and now
shit.
But if you are being really honest on stage, okay, really honest, even if that bombs, there's something about that. Like I went on stage the other night and I went to the Stand actually. And it was very recent, like a week. And I just was like, I don't care how this goes. And I just was like, I'm not a political comedian. So like even in my special, when I talked about Trump, I had people on the left and the right going, I didn't know where you were going with that, but you walked the line perfectly. It's like, yeah, because I'm not trying to divide anybody. I'm not trying to, I'm a comedian. I'm trying to do jokes.
Yeah.
I could make fun of Trump and people on the right don't like me. I can make a joke about Biden, people on the left. It's like, I'm not political. I'm just making jokes. Yeah. And I was on stage at the Stand and I just go, man, I miss Trump. And I just sat in it and I looked at everybody for a second. And then I was like, I'm not political. I was like, I just miss the chaos. And then I ended up doing a joke and the joke ended up killing. And the thing was, if it didn't kill, I know that my thought was honest. I know that what I was saying was I really believe in. I even know what I was saying was funny. So if you're not going to go along with me because you heard the word Trump and you're so political and you're not taking that shit away and understanding that you're in a comedy club, knowing that I can make fun of anybody, then it really doesn't matter to me. And so I guess the point of what I'm saying is if you're going to bomb and if you are bombing, don't do it with like dumb shit that like is just silly jokes. If you're going to do that, go up there and like say something at least, because even in that bomb, if somebody leaves and goes, wow, what are you saying though? That was actually kind of like, that's a cool thing because at least that if the room was quiet, but you still kind of made an impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cause it's gotta be hard. Cause I remember seeing your Trump bit and it was very funny. But do you have are you going to write any Biden bits or are you just like,
No, I was just like I was like, the thing with me is I riff a lot, I riff a lot on stage. And when I'm doing like hours on the road, like if I'm doing an hour set on the road and I'm riffing and I'm having a good time, I'll always say something, I'll always joke and goof about something. So I said something about Biden, like falling up the stairs. And then I said, what did I say? I said, he's getting on the wrong plane. I go, no, Joe. I go, that's a Southwest to Orlando, dude. Like, just joking. I was like, Air Force One is over here, And then then in my mind, I'm like, no, but then I could say he wants to see Mickey Mouse. Or then I could, and just all these but it's just silly, dumb riffing shit. But if it turns into a bit, then it turns into a bit. But the craziest thing is when I'll say this, and I did Trump tweeting from heaven. Like if he died and he was in heaven, he would still find a way to tweet. When I did that joke, even though people were like, he's not picking a political side, the only negative thing, I mean, I got 98% positive on my special. My special did fantastic. And the only negative thing was, yeah, but his like political agenda. And I'm going like, what? But the thing is, that's always going to be there. So you're never. So if I joke about Biden falling up and down the stairs or getting on the wrong airplane and because he's senile, there are going to be some lunatics that go, oh, wow, he's such a right wing, which is the craziest thing in the world. Cause I'm completely joking about just the mental state of our president.
Right. Which everybody has to recognize.
I was basically talking about how we care. One thing I can't accept is how much we care in this country about the royal family. Yet that's what I said on stage.
Okay.
we care so much about the royal family, Prince Harry and all this stuff. And I was like, and our president can't walk up a flight of stairs, something like that. But it was a riff. It's a riff, right? And I can't worry about the 10% of lunatics that are going, so what is he? He hates the president? Like, I can't, that's like, you can't live your life like that, because that's just always going to be there.
Right. It's true. And when we live in a very crazy climate where, things that weren't politicized and before have become politicized, like the mask was politicized, and then the vaccine was politicized. You're like, no, I am apolitical. I don't like politicians. I never have. I don't get the whole hype behind them and people losing shit over them. Like, I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
And if whether I want to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine has nothing to do with my political agenda. It has something to do with, does my doctor recommend it? Do I feel I need it? Or, you know what I mean? But everything's being politicized now. I'm like, what the fuck? No. Like, I didn't get the flu shot the last 5 years. Like, that wasn't politicized.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, that's the world we live in, where there's almost like a line in the sand going like, I have zero issues with somebody who doesn't want to take the vaccine or takes the vaccine. It's like, there's nothing wrong with being like, well, I kind of want to wait. I don't know what they're putting in my body. And then there's also nothing wrong with somebody going, my doctor said it's safe, so I'm going to do it. Like, that's the thing. It's like, when I first noticed it, and you just nailed it 100%. But when I first noticed it, I was younger, but do you remember Terry Schiavo, rest her soul? Do you remember that Terry Schiavo? She was the one who, like, her mind was gone. She was like in a vegetable state, and she was just laying there. And the decision of her husband was and they basically like politicized that. And it was like, they were saying like, you got to just let her go. And like, they made it about like religion and like people on the right with like pro-life. And it was just going like, no, this is a woman in a veg state or whatever. And her husband has a decision. And the bottom line is, if science and logic is saying that she's gone, then that's up to the family and she's gone. And if not, and it became like CNN saying one thing, Fox saying another. And that was like literally like 15, that was like a long time. And that's when I first started noticing that logical things started to become political. So like you said, the mask and the vaccine. And if you joke about Trump, you are on the left. And if you joke about Biden, you're on the right. It's all these different things. And it's like, can't we just be people talking shit? Like,
I know. It's like, to be a comedian in the 80s when everything went. It's funny. It's like, you watch some of these old shows. Like, I just discovered that the Golden Girls are on like reruns every night, and so I'll fall asleep to the Golden Girls. And
one of my favorite shows.
So funny, and I'm like, I don't think that show would get made today.
No, the Golden Girls. We actually talked to me and Burr. We're talking about this on the Anything Better podcast, where that show was so incredibly, all of the characters.
Oh, they were amazing.
All of the characters, with B. Arthur being the sarcastic one, and her mother being just this hilarious, like, and then Betty White, all of them, Blanche character, it was just such a well-written, but they would joke. And a lot of shows I look at and I'm going like, I don't know if, I did the Impractical Jokers cruise, and David Zucker, who did Naked Gun and Airplane, was on there.
Okay. And
he was like, I don't know if we'd be able to make that movie today. Like Airplane, because, listen, it had stereotypes about Italians and blacks and Asians, and it had stereotypes, but it was just a silly, goofy thing. But like now it's like, oh, that's part of the problem. So you do have to listen, you do have to be sensitive to people. Like, I get that too. Like, you can't be saying things nuts, but yeah, it's like, I don't know if Golden Girls, but it's a shame because that show's fantastic.
Well, I'm glad they still do the reruns and they haven't pulled those, because I love it.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
They haven't made a modern day Golden Girls.
Yeah, they probably will.
But yeah, you think they would bring that back somehow. But
hey, they brought back Ghostbusters with all women, right?
That's true. That's true. Maybe they'll do the golden guys. A bunch of like beer drinking fat Men that are like, yeah, our wives aren't around to keep us skinny anymore. Here we go.
That's really funny, man. That's really funny. Golden guys, just fat guys golfing and like what? Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, that could actually be hilarious. That would definitely be a show I could watch. But yeah, we're definitely in a climate where you have to be careful. But it's just, yeah, I try to just stay out of it because I'm like, I don't care about any of this. Like I just want to live my life, and what I focus on, I think what you focus on too, is like, where do I add value? That's what I'm going to put all my energy into, is how am I adding value?
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. You know, what I do is I'm just going to be like, look, I know my intentions, and I know my intentions aren't to hurt anybody. And anybody that knows me or knows my comedy and listens to my podcast and knows me over these years that have in comedy, in this business, knows that my intentions aren't to do that. So what my intentions are to do is to be funny and to be honest. And if that's going to offend some people, then that's going to offend some people. You know, I'm doing a joke right now about the WNBA, and like, I'm just doing it and I don't care. And if people are like, it's just what I feel. And like, if that's going to take you away from being my fan, then like I could walk away from that going, that's fine, because like it's an honest thing I'm saying. And so I really do think that Patrice O'Neal, rest his soul, he said something back in the day where he's like, if you're on stage and you say something, make sure you mean it. Right. So it's like, if you go up there with just shock value shit and you want people to go, oh, he said that, but then you get a backlash from it, well, then you kind of deserve it, because it wasn't authentic, right? You just wanted some wild shit to come your way, or you just wanted to have people go at you.
Right.
And then you caught some shit. It's like, okay, well then, you kind of know the animal that you're fighting. But if you mean it and you're honest about it, like every time I do a set now and I speak on stage, I'm going, when I got off stage, could I defend this in a court of law? Not like literally, but right. In my mind, yeah, I'm not like really thinking about going to court, but like if somebody came up to me and was like, hey, that one joke you did, and I would go, yeah, I know exactly what joke you're talking about. Yes, I did do it. Here's why. I think it's funny. I don't owe you anything, and I'll do it again. And if you have that every time you perform, then the people that like you are going to come, and the people that are going to leave are going to leave. And that's it. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. Do you think, oh my gosh, that just when you brought up the court thing, has there any been a story where a comedian's ever been sued for what they've said on stage?
Yeah, Mike Yard. No, not Mike Yard. Not Mike Yard. Mike Ward. Mike Ward. Sorry, same spelling except the first letter is different.
Yeah.
Mike Ward is a comedian from Montreal, Canada, and he did a joke about this sick boy whose wish was to sing the national anthem at a sporting event. And the kid did get to sing, and he said, just how awful it was, right? And it's incredibly funny, and he's totally joking, and he was just like joking around, messing around, did something. Family sued him. He went to court. He got charged with a $40,000 fine, and comedians all over paid for it. Comedians were like, no, we're not letting this happen. And they like did a GoFundMe, and they took care of the fine. But he actually went to court, and I could be getting the story wrong. About exactly if he said the song wasn't good, or why would the family want him to sing, something along those lines of somebody who had a Make-A-Wish thing to do something to sing, and then they did it, and then he said something about how it went down, or if they should have allowed it to go down, something like that. Family sued him, went to court, and this is like before all of this. This is like 7 years ago, 6 years. This is like, I want to say like 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 16, the latest, but and he got fined a $40,000 charge from a court, and comedians were like, hey man, we got to help out Mike Ward, and then they did. They paid for it.
That is so insane. I mean, but you would think like maybe this will start happening more often. God, I hope not, but it's time.
It's really wild. It's a really weird time where, like I said, mean it. When all the jokes, I would say right now I probably have 3 or 4 jokes in my new hour that people will maybe just not raise eyebrows in bad ways, but you could see somebody going, well, I didn't like that. but I stand behind all of them. I could defend all of them. I'm going to continue to do the jokes. I don't give a fuck. I'm never apologizing for any joke. And because I know in my heart of hearts what my intention is, and I know it would be so silly to go at me.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. So I know, but it's good that you have that confidence. I think if maybe we were in this climate when everybody first started, it might be a little different. So it'll be interesting to see how kind of comedy evolves and what it'll become, especially like the roast. Think those are going to happen anymore? Like roast battles?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, roast battles was something I was never really into anyway, but I don't know, you know. I just don't know what. Like I said, I think the only way to win, you know, the way they say honesty is the best policy. That it's so funny how that holds true all the time. Think about all the sayings. Honesty is the best policy. The truth will set you free. If you're just really honest, truly, and you could make that funny, I don't think they could fuck with you. Like if it's truly an honest thought and you make it funny and you could stand by it, how can they get you? You know, it's the stupid shit. You know, if somebody goes out there and they were like, I think if a certain race starts a pandemic or a disease, they should be attacked. Like if you say stupid shit like that,
yeah,
they should. Then they're gonna come after you. It's like, yeah, well, you deserve it. You're a dickhead. Who says that? That's not shock value. It's not funny. It's just like, so you got to really be smart too.
Yeah, which is it's an interesting climate. You know, it'll be interesting to see where kind of everything goes. You know, and with all the extremes, with you know wokeism, if it's gonna actually just pop back the other way.
Yeah, if there's a balance where it's going to be like, all right, well, it's going to teeter the other way or just level out. But people just need to know that when you go to a comedy club and you spend that money to see a comedian do their art, you're going to hear things about. I do a joke about you know, that I'm tired of these cancer charities, and my mother has stage 4 cancer. So it's like you gotta. It's like, no, she's fine now. Thank God. There was a drug that saved her life. But like, you know, it's like, yeah, you got to know when you go to a comedy club, you're going to hear things about drugs. You're going to hear things about disease. You're going to hear things about sex. You're going to hear all these different things. You're going to hear that people are going to try to put light on and make funny. And if you're easily offended, just don't come.
Right.
Just don't come. It's like that. There should be. I always say this, Madison, there should be a disclaimer from the ceiling to the floor of a comedy club right outside the showroom that says, you're going to hear this, XYZ. You're going to hear this. You're going to hear this. If you're easily offended, leave. And you should, the same way they're going to take your temperature, you should have to take a picture of that disclaimer on your cell phone and go. And if you come out and you go, I can't believe that's disgusting what he said, and be like, look, you took a picture on your phone. You know what you read, and that's it. You know, because
that's a good idea.
I know.
Really good idea. So how has it been? Like, I haven't been in New York since the clubs recently opened up, but how are the audiences? Like, do they have to wear masks the whole time?
No. So it's only like 33% capacity. The audiences are, you know, wear a mask until you get to your seat, and then it's optional. They space out the room. So I guess I think the stand downstairs, they took out like one of the middle rows. So it's a little more spaced out. You're sitting with your group. You could take the mask off or not during the show. And no, it's been, you know, from, like I said, with the 33% and the people sitting there, the crowd seemed to be into it. They're enjoying themselves. And that's it. That's really it. There's no temperature being taken anymore. I don't think you have to do that now. Because I think with the vaccines out for as long as they've been out and stuff like that, I think they're kind of doing away with the temperature at the door.
Interesting. And are you planning on staying in New York?
Yeah, you know, I'm not going anywhere. I live up in the country. I live an hour north we have land up here, and not land, but like we have a nice little you know, set up here in the country where it's just a big backyard, big front yard, and I'm an hour to the city. I can fly where I want to fly. So I'm not going anywhere. Like there's these comics, they're going to Austin, there are comics going to, to Florida. That's great, but I'll fly there, man. I'm not taking my kids out of school.
Yeah.
I'm doing I'm doing the podcast. I built this studio that I'm in right now during the pandemic in my home. So I got the podcast studio, and I'm not going anywhere. Like, there's no reason to. There's no reason to for me.
Even with all the crazy taxes.
That's it's funny.
That's preventing me from possibly coming back. I'm like, I'm gonna have a second home there, like a business home. Like, I might save more money if I lived at a hotel for 5 months. Like, I could live at the Four Seasons. You know what I mean? Like, write it all off through the business.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The tax thing is the one thing where I'm going like, shit, man. Like, if I get to a point where I'm making a certain amount of money, I just want to get right under the line, because to give away like what Cuomo wants to do, and now the new tax thing, it's like, it really does, like, it's like, listen, I understand like being taxed for shit because it's America, but getting taxed like that is criminal. It's fucking criminal. And where are you?
I've been hanging out in Colorado right now.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, and then I was going to Florida a bunch to do shows, which was awesome because it was 100% capacity and just
nice.
Totally felt normal. Nobody was wearing masks at any point.
Colorado's great.
Yeah, and Colorado's been good. It's been a little more locked down. I came back twice. This summer it was like open. Felt kind of bad for everybody else because I'm sitting here just living my life, going to house parties, going to backyard, but safe, like more backyard pool stuff. Yeah. And then I came back in November and they like got stricter and shut it all down. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out here, which is good. But it's the whole New York thing. I feel a little FOMO when the club's open, but I'm like, wait, the clubs are open here. And I've been doing shows in Florida, but it's like, you don't know how New York is going to fare or be. But I just, I always thought I would live in New York, like in the city. I'd always have a place in the city. And then COVID happened and I realized, wow, I can't believe I wanted to live in a shoebox. Like, I gotta set my goals higher.
Yeah, it's
for $5,000 a month. I'm like, I could do better than this.
You're 100% right. And the thing is, I think what COVID did was it put perspective. I was talking to some comedians. Like, for me, the whole idea of like doing spots early in the week, I'm just not doing that. Like, it's like, I'm not leaving my family for $25 and having somebody go, well, we'll put you on at like, can you do an 11 o'clock on a Tuesday? The answer is no. So it's like, I'll come in on weekends when I'm not on the road. Mm-hmm. If there's a nice paying gig somewhere, I'll go. But like the days of like spots, I got to do this, I got to hang around. Like, that's just, pandemic lets you realize that it was kind of almost like a mental weird, like an illness. It's almost like a weird, like you got to get your sets in. I get that, but working smart and hard as opposed to, not working smart and just thinking you're working hard. It's like, no, running around and doing 4 sets in a night on a Monday. Okay. But then you're going to do that again on Tuesday. It's a hamster wheel, man. I didn't get up for 5 months. And then I went to Arizona because, early in the pandemic, I got COVID, my whole family. So I had antibodies early. So I was able to get on the road. And I did Arizona during the heart of this shit. And I was fine. I got on stage and it came back. And I was like, shit, people are like, you don't look like you missed anything. And I'm like, so listen, I still need to get up. If I'm working on a bit, I still want to get up in the city. I'll still do that. But like the whole, like, oh, I gotta be here. That's gone. I'm a grown man with 2 children. I'm not doing that.
Do you think that same perspective is happening to other comedians too? Because I remember it was kind of this thing.
I do.
It was almost a competition in a way. And people would post all these shows and it was like, why are they getting so much? Or people saying, why are you getting so much? And it was just this unhealthy thing of like, oh, you're not working tonight, or no, I'm going to go and enjoy my life. Because if I die, I don't want to just be doing stand-up. I want to have a full life.
That's brilliant. It's perfect. And it's 1,000% right. I used to go from being home on a weekend with my family or sitting down with a friend and enjoying a dinner or a cocktail or a glass of wine or something on TV, chilling. And I used to be like, yeah, but people are getting on stage. Are they getting better? And I used to feel bad. Now I feel bad for them.
Yes. Well, it's true because I felt like I kept a pretty good balance with,
Yeah, you have to.
yeah, like I still lived my life, and I also, educated myself in other things, because I feel the most dangerous thing any human being can set themselves up for is one stream of income. It's a very dangerous, dark path, whether it's your job. It's like you always got to have multiple kind of things going. So if one falls apart, you're fine. Like you wouldn't put all your savings into one stock. Why would you put all your brain into one thing?
That's exactly right. Like,
and having knowledge about different things and being okay. Like you're a fucking kick-ass comedian and you're fine, but a lot of comics that might not get the chance that they want or deserve, it's okay to step away if things aren't necessarily working. It's okay to kind of diversify into a different path. Like I had a thing, when we all become comedians, we also somehow default, we all become actors at the same time. I'm like, I didn't want to be an actor. I just wanted to tell some jokes, but all of a sudden you have to be an actor type thing. Like you need those acting. Now all of a sudden you're in acting school and you're like, wait, I didn't sign up for this shit. But then you're going on auditions. You're like, this is even worse than an open mic. And like you're preparing for them and paying all this fucking money to get on these damn sites that don't even do anything. And then you're paying fucking union dues. It's a whole shit show. And I recognized that I wasn't getting like the opportunities or being cast or being seen for acting. And it was frustrating. And I used to let it get to like my self-worth. And it would affect me. But it was really like, hey, you look like every other fucking blonde, big-titted bimbo in LA, and they have more credits. And he was like, how the fuck are you supposed to compete with that? So I decided, being a finance and economics major from a very good school, that I decided, okay, well, I like this business. I like these people, the majority of them. I like being creative. So how can I use my skills to pivot within the business? And now I'm more on the producing type, and I fucking love it. And doors flying open. Like I'm having conversations with people I never would have had conversations with. So what I try to tell people too is like, if something isn't working, you're always kind of hitting a wall or you're not happy, like just pivot. You don't have to leave the business. You just have to figure out what's better for you and what's going to result more reward.
Yeah. And I think that's why you're going to be successful, Madison, because I think that having an understanding of that is a win within itself. Because like I said, there are some people that just stay on a hamster wheel and just continue to lose. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with pivoting. There's nothing wrong. Me and a comedian friend of mine didn't get into it, but basically had an issue with a different philosophy. And the philosophy was, well, it's podcasts now. All the money's in podcasts. And I'm going, all right, but first of all, I didn't drop out of college to be a radio host, number one. Number two, I also aren't going to put all my eggs in a basket of hoping that advertisers pay me for a podcast. So why not do the podcast and do stand-up and write a script? And if you get an acting role. So it's like with me, it was like, I want it all, but my main anchor was always stand-up. So based off of what you said, so I'll be honest with you. This is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened with me, where I'm at to this day. So I'll say this came out and it was a hit and it did really well. And it opened every major A-room comedy club to open their doors to me to go on the road. So that's what it was. So, Comedy Central, people have their opinions about how they don't air it enough, how they don't see it. But what it did do was it opened a lot of doors for me, right? And then everybody wants me all of a sudden for a little bit at least, right? Now they got to see they want me, but now they got to see how I'm growing and they got to see if I'm getting better, which of course I am. They don't know who I am and then they know who I am, Right. So, but then the pandemic hits and it's tough, comedies, you know, and I'm like, right when I'm getting better, we're about to shoot a next special. You know, I got a new manager. My manager is, you know, great dude. Rory Rosegarden, he represents Ray Romano, Brian Regan, wanted to work with me. And all these things are happening. We're ready to shoot the next special, and the pandemic comes, and everybody's going like, it's about podcasts. It's about podcasts. Now, the weakest part of my game at that time was my online presence. I'm just not the type of guy, and I realize that. I'm not going to do man on the street shit to blow up a YouTube channel. What I will do is put great stand-up on a YouTube channel and build my podcast up. I turned this studio into a thing. So my online presence was something that I was like, all right with it, but like, I don't need to show you me making eggs. You know, I don't need to show you like that. That's just not I'm not going to dance and shit. So, So I was so focused on getting better at stand-up and doing the craft that I loved and trying to get to a certain level of stand-up. And right as that started happening, I realized, all right, man, you do have to, now that the pandemic is here, let's find a way to get the followers online to make people see what you're doing. And then that's when I built this studio. That's when I made the Virzi effect on Zoom, so now video, you could watch it on my YouTube channel, all that. Then, Burr hit me up and said, hey man, we always talked about doing this podcast. Let's do this podcast. So then that was online. So now Instagram moves up, and I was late to I was so late to Instagram. Like I got on Instagram, like my wife signed me up for it like 4 years. I never touched it once. And then finally at pandemic, I was like, let me try. I guess I'll try this.
Yeah.
You know, and that was ignorant on my part. Like that was, like I said, the weakest part of my game was thinking like, who cares? Like, people are going to see what I'm doing in the clubs. That wasn't enough. I mean, listen, I did have a little bit of a presence, but now it's like, you see videos of me and then you see my stand up. So it's both. So you have to somebody needs to look in the mirror and find out what they're not doing right and what they're doing right and put them together. So now the Instagram is moving. The Twitter is moving. I got the podcasts out in people's faces. My YouTube channel. This time last year, my YouTube channel had, I didn't touch it. I had nothing. I had like 12 clips on there. It had like 69 subscribers this time last year. Okay. Right now it has, in this year, it has like, almost 3,500 in a year, just of subscribers, in less than a year. So in less than a year, over 3,000 people were like, oh, so now I look at it like, if at the end of this year, when 2022 starts, I want to have 10,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. These were all things that I didn't have when I was doing great at stand-up. So that doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I got tired of people saying to me, and this happened a lot, and this is what bothered me. People would say to me, dude, your stand-up is so much better than what your online presence shows. And that bothered me, because then they're basically saying, okay, Paul, great. When somebody goes in the club and they see you work, they're going to realize you're fun. What is that? You need to show everybody that your second hour was better than your first, and the stuff you're working on is going to be better than you need. Now, there's always room to grow in stand-up, but if your fans constantly see you going up, you got to expand that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was like, okay, let me fucking really, now that I'm home.
Yeah.
And now I realize how important it is. And now I realize that you can't have all your eggs in one basket, but make sure that all your baskets have eggs, I guess.
That's a good point to put it. Yeah. But it is true. And you know, social media is such a big thing. I mean, when people are going in to look at, you know, talent, it's, you know, it's not only their talent, it's then how many followers do they have? Do they have a big enough name? Because now that I'm kind of on the producing side, and when I bring people in for certain projects, it's important for me to have those statistics as well, because it's a big enough person to carry. And it's amazing, because people that you would think that are big enough names, or this person was this, they're in the Hall of Fame, they've got this, people just don't know. And then they go, and they might be older because they're retired, like for sports or something. And then they go and they don't really have a social media presence, and that dings them when it shouldn't at all, because this is the perfect person to host this platform. So now it's like, you know, I find it too when I'm looking at certain people. Like now I'm sitting here kind of still on this side, but also on the other side, and I'm doing the same damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, oh, what's their presence like? How do they capture the audience? Things of
Yeah.
that sort. So it's just a kind of a vicious cycle. But for me, it's like my social media presence. I read Twitter and I'll retweet certain things or I'll like certain things, but I'm just, all the stories I've heard of people just saying one wrong thing on Twitter and everything was over just scared me. And so I don't really tweet.
No, because it sucks to live like that. And it sucks that, I said on stage the other day, I said, there's such thing as, I said, freedom of speech still exists, but at a cost. It's a cost. You know what I mean? So people, there's still freedom of speech. Yeah, there's freedom of speech, but there's people that lost shit for saying shit. So it is definitely a slippery slope. And as far as the social media thing, for the first time in my career, comedy clubs are now following me online. So like, I'll look at my phone and I'll be like, oh, okay. And listen, but I've learned it's not personal. It never was personal.
No.
You could see who they're putting in clubs. I mean, when a YouTube star is getting weekends, where the club's head is at, because the club's head is not at
asses in the seats, not
yeah, it's how much revenue's coming, how many people are going to be eating, drinking, and sitting in our establishment. They'll put a dead fucking donkey on stage if it's going to get 400 people to stare at it. And that's that. So when I learned that, and I was like, all right, Paul, this ain't about you. This is not about, nobody's like saying fuck Paul Virzi and don't book him. They're going, how many people is he going to bring in this weekend? And as soon as they see an opportunity where that number goes up, let's follow him. Let's see what he's doing. I get it. It's business. It's gross. Our business is gross. The things that people will do for attention in this business, the things that people will do to get 10,000 followers more. I've seen it, and I won't mention names, but I've seen some gross shit that I'm not willing to do.
Can you mention about the people? What's the gross shit? Because I don't know if I've seen anything gross. I don't have an OnlyFans account, so I'm not in there digging around.
No. When I say gross, when I say gross, I mean like the desperation of people doing shows with people that they aren't friends. Like there's a lot of people like you who asked me to do their podcast that I never met. And it's like, and I'm in this situation where it's like, what does that even mean? So like, we don't have a rapport. I know you, me and you have talked on multiple occasions at clubs.
Yeah.
I think, I did one of your shows. We spoke even before. I remember you were telling me that I think your girlfriend is Peter Billingsley's, wife. Yeah. So I think that was the first time that we met. So I had a rapport with you. You reached out and said, hey, I want to do a podcast. And obviously with scheduling, things happen, but I know you. Some of these people, now listen, if it's through a friend, I get it. Like if it's a friend of a friend and they go, hey, you got to have so-and-so on your podcast, I get that. Or if it's somebody that you've been hearing about for years and you connect, but like certain people, like just like doing anything and everything to get on any show, saying things on shows just to get reactions, like and you just watch people and you're going, man, this person is like desperate. Like this person will, like you could watch somebody and go, this person is desperate for followers. This person will do anything, say anything. And so that's what I mean by gross, where it's like, and listen, there are some people that would argue with me and go, yeah, Paul, but it's show business. It's show business. Fine. But for me, there's a cost. Like for me, it's like, I did not get in this business to do like some of the things I see people doing, taking their shirts off, doing stupid shit. I did that shit in high school, man.
Right.
If that, like some of this shit is really childish and I'm not willing to do it. If that hurts my following, then fine. But I'm going to get my following my way and the way that I want to. And as long as that's moving in the right direction and I'm doing it the way that I want to, then I feel good.
Exactly. So because that's the thing with that I feel really blew up this year with people doing dumb shit was TikTok. TikTok's been around, but this is when it really kind of blew up. And now there's all these people that have legitimate careers and are probably going to be on stand-up tours that have never done stand-up because they danced around or like put a bottle of booze in their ass and like did a handstand to get drunk. I mean, this is kind of like what's happening. I know a production company. I can't really say anything because it's not on the air, but they're doing stuff with TikTok people, and the money is just disgusting. What is going on?
Comedy Dynamics. Fuck those people. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know it's not.
I'm just kidding. Fuck them anyway. No, I'm kidding.
But I thought, what a smart business move. You might sit there and look at these videos and go, oh, it's fucking pathetic, so stupid, blah, blah. But then you could be like, look at the numbers, look at the eyes, look at what we could potentially make, and then boom, there's your business part.
Yeah. Well, I have a really funny TikTok story for you. So my son is 11 and my daughter's 8. And my son is on the phone with one of his friends. This is like almost a little less than a year ago. And this is like first quarter of the pandemic. And so I hear my son on speaker with his friend talking about TikTok. And they all know what I do for a living. So I hear my son's best friend, James, say, "Hey, Lucas, is your dad on TikTok?" No, first he said, Lucas said, "Dad, can I get a TikTok account?" I was like, "I don't know. I'll talk to your mother, whatever." And then I hear his friend say, "Does your dad have a TikTok account?" And Lucas goes, "No, he doesn't." And then all of a sudden I hear his friend go, "Well, he's got 2.1 million views on one of his jokes on here." So I'm going, what? So Comedy Central had put one of my jokes on their TikTok, the lightsaber joke, me and my daughter fighting with the lightsaber, put that joke on TikTok May 4th for the Star Wars thing.
Okay.
And it had 2.1 million views unbeknownst to me. Right now, it has 5.2 million views, and it's one of the most views in the history of, there's one other person, Ali Sadiq is the only person who's got a story with more views on social media, on their social media than me on TikTok. I've passed everybody. And I had no idea just through my son's friend saying that.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, do I get a TikTok account? And I'm like, no, I did. And then I was like, now what am I going to do? All I could do is put stand-up clips on. And, that's not really going to go viral. So I'm just going to let them, whatever viral shit I have on there, do that. But that was a big part during the pandemic. And then other jokes that I had on from the special on Facebook started to go up too. But I'm just not somebody wrote to me recently on my YouTube channel and they were just like, "Man, I love your approach. I love the way you do it. I love the way you're doing I'm doing it the only way that I could do it. And all I could do is just be as real and honest as I can and just do what I love and put my shit out there. And if that's enough for my fans, which it seems to be moving in the right direction, then I'm good with that." But I'm just not. And again, this is not a knock. I'm not knocking anybody who's doing something to move up in this business. Even if it's something that I wouldn't do, I get it, man. Who am I to judge? People have their own lives. People have their own mental shit. I'm not judging anybody, but I'm just not going to, like you said, and I appreciate I'll rant on my podcast about something and I'll get passionate about it. And I'll do that and I'll put that out there. And some people agree, some people won't. But I'm not putting lipstick on. I'm not going out into the street with in tighty whities, running down the street with a microphone, talking. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. So from that, and the other thing too is I want to get your opinion, because I haven't really asked a lot of my male comedian friends of what their opinion is on OnlyFans. Because this is the biggest thing. I just read an article in the Post this morning that said, and don't politicize that. I read all papers. Okay, just making a note. You don't know what's going to be politicized, right? But Sandra Morgan, that Real Housewives woman, she's the 4th most popular account on OnlyFans. And I'm like, shit, everybody's on this damn thing. I'm not on it. But yeah, I'm like, am I missing the boat?
I don't know really what it is, except isn't it sexual?
Yeah. Yeah, you post racy pictures, and then people that like your pictures, I should say perverts that like your pictures, will donate, will pay you and give you money. And I'm sure there's some girls that do private things, some guy will be like, "Oh, I'll give you $100,000, if you jerk off in front of me, on camera. I don't know what goes on. I'm not on there, but I'm curious because some people, there was a girl that was also in an article. I don't know if this was the Times or the Post, who was making $200,000 a month. And then there was another, and then you see the Cash Me Outside girl made like $1 million in 6 days or something. And I'm like, who? Because all these, you've got all these very wealthy overseas people.
Yeah.
And I guess they're bored. But who knew that just like, I was at a strip club on Monday. I got stuck in Miami. I was coming back from Puerto Rico and there was all these canceled flights. I couldn't get out for like 2 days. So I said, I'm going to make the most of it. I met up with some friends in Miami and we had a great day. We went to the one hotel. We went to the Satai. We went to this other place. It was like just a perfect, like good tour of South Beach, fancy schmancy. And then I said, you know what, if this is going to be a random day in Miami, like I gotta go out with a bang. So off to the titty bar we went. And it was funny just watching these girls. And I got a couple lap dances to support them because I don't judge, but just looking on stage, I hadn't been to a strip club for a while, and them just shaking their ass for people to throw fucking money at them. I'm like, this is so degrading. I don't even know how they sleep at night. Oh, I do, because they have shit tons of money when they go home. But OnlyFans is the same thing. It's the same fucking thing. But I guess it's like you just put that pride behind you. As they say, everybody has morals, but then everybody has a price.
Right. It's like, what are you, what is somebody willing to do to make them look? I guess at the end of the day, it's all about sleeping at night. Right. So it's like, if you can do that, make yourself $100,000, somebody showing their ass, and I don't know if they cover their face or not, or whatever the deal is, but it really comes down to what, one thing that show business has taught me is it will make people do things that show the desperation and the attention that they really seek and need or lacked in their life. There's definitely, and maybe because when my parents separated, maybe I think my mom moved us a lot. I moved a lot, and I would get really popular and I'd play sports and I'd have a girlfriend and everything would go good. And then all of a sudden we got to move, and my stories and likability and humor made people accept me. So maybe that's why, but I'm not willing to, with me, it's not like do anything at all costs to be liked or known or popular. And what I've noticed in those people is they're not happy even when they get it. So that's really what it comes down to. It's like people, they're chasing this thing. And then when they finally get a hold of it, they're like, oh, it wasn't this thing. Because there's a void.
Outside of your home and food, the additional money or whatever doesn't cause that much happiness after that.
Right.
It's like once you have like your home paid off and your food, like you don't need that much more. But I'm wondering with this OnlyFans thing, I mean, people are making stupid money. I thought I was doing pretty good in the crypto game, but I'm like, apparently I should have shown a titty and got more of this. Maybe I made the mistake. I don't know.
Should I buy Bitcoin or what?
So I like Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is a store of value. I've had a lot of people on talking about Bitcoin. I'm going to, I put in like a certain amount of money into, my Bitcoin account. I like the fact that you can then store it at BlockFi and make 6.5%. I think that's great. You're making money on top of your money. But I also really like a lot of the altcoins that are much lower priced, I feel. But the thing is with Bitcoin is just kind of a store of value and everybody's getting involved in it. It's like the new gold. But I like the altcoins because I like what cryptocurrency stands for, which is decentralization and putting the power in the people's hands and having our government fucked up, because I'm kind of like anti-government. I just don't feel like they work for the people. So I look at the white papers, which is the project, like the business behind it. Yeah. And if I like what they're doing, I'm like, oh, I can see why this is going to rally up. And so VeChain, which is VET, is one. I think it was at 16 cents. Some of these, like I have friends that bought, put in $3,000 in VET at when it was, 3 cents. And so they had 100,000 of them. And every time it moves a cent, they make $1,000. And now it's up to like 17 or 18 cents before I got back on. And then, Ethereum's also the second biggest one, but then Cardano is one. They're basically going into corrupt governments and providing like a way where all the people have access to financial resources and money. I'm like, I like that. That's a humanitarian cause that I can also get rich off. That's what I'm about.
Yeah, I like that too.
This is fucking great. So Cardano is a really a good one. But the thing is, like, people don't just, watch YouTube videos all day and sit there and go, oh, this alt guy said this or this said this. Like, look at the papers behind it that you can find. And like, oh, I like what this project stands for. When you like what the project stands for, it's easy to take the dips because you're in it.
Wow, that makes sense. Yeah, because you're invested. It's not just money you're invested in. Well, it is the money, but you're also liking the idea of what's going on. So you're willing to ride it out. Right?
Exactly. Like this Cardano thing, it's the third most popular. It's, even though it's only like $1.43 right now, but that's a good run because it's been about, 79 cents to $1.20. And then it would kind of go up and down. And now it's shot up. But they're going into, Africa and specifically Ethiopia, and they're going to they're going to basically fight to have their coin be the new currency. So all these impoverished areas can have access and have money and finance and things to buy and sell, which they've never had because their government's so fucked up. And I'm like, I love that. I fucking love that. And I've made money on it. So, I'm trying to get this guy, the founder, on my podcast because he was also the co-founder of Ethereum. And so I'm like, I just emailed his assistant. So hopefully we're staying tuned on that.
That's you seem to really like have a nice grasp of it and a good plan with it and stuff. That's great.
Yeah, so it's good. But yeah, if you ever need help, we can always, talk offline. And I have people that have put me in touch with people that have given me great insight and educated me. And it's just kind of what you put out in the universe, kind of comes
always
back to you, or things that you're educated about. You share something with somebody that helps them. All of a sudden somebody's calling you to help you. It's like it doesn't happen really in Hollywood, but in other industries it does.
Yeah.
I always say if I wanted to get the founder or the CEO of Goldman Sachs on the phone, I could do that. I could probably make that happen in a week, right?
Yeah.
Or the founder of some like huge crypto. I can make that happen. But if somebody's like, oh yeah, can you get, Ben Stiller on the phone? I'd really like to talk to him about this project. That's going to be a pretty hard task.
Yeah, Yeah.
I might have to join OnlyFans to get that done. I don't know.
Yeah. Ben Stiller would have to be an OnlyFans fan.
Right. Exactly. So it's just, it's a brutal business. I feel this business is, which I respect people that have really made it in this business like you authentically, because it is such a hard racket, and, kind of break through those barriers. And you've done it purely on your talent. I know that your balls aren't floating on OnlyFans or on TikTok. So kudos to you.
Yeah, who knows what happens in the future? No, I'm kidding. But no, like for me, it to put the work in and to see the improvement, like, meant everything to me, because I always did well on stage, but being a good comedian and being funny are two different worlds. And a lot of people don't know that. Being funny and being a good comedian are two different worlds. I was funny from the beginning. I've only been a good comedian probably as far as like a good comedian for like the second half of my career, because at the beginning I was likable. People liked me and said I got a good presence. That hurt me because that let me get away with shit.
Yeah.
I didn't have to really dig deep because I was like, oh, they're laughing, they're smiling, I guess I'm doing good. And it was like, no. And then when I got to New York City and I saw like comics that were real comics digging deeper and stuff. But to go from, I did black rooms. Like I honestly, like the way that the movie 8 Mile is kind of, other than battling, I came up in comedy like that a lot, where it was like, come to this room, 250 black audience members, the urban circuit, the comics loved me. So they would go, hey, come down and do, and I did that. And I would do contests, and I would drive from upstate down there. And then I'd start to get into regular clubs, and then to have big comedians be like, hey man, you're funny. All of those things, it just, but listen, I had those nights where I was like, man, is this can I do this? Can I be a nationally headlining? Like, you have those questions and everything, but like, stay in the course. And, you know, I definitely had a strong, supportive wife who like, I told her from the beginning, this is what I'm doing. So you need to make your decision, but I'm doing this. And she was, and she made the decision. That's a true thing. You know, me and her, it's one of the best decisions I made in my life. I think I was around 23 years old, and we were in a diner in Manhattan.
Okay.
And I had just done a contest at the Garden Theater. And I remember I said to my wife, girlfriend at the time, and she's a beautiful girl, did great at college, could have went anywhere she wanted. And I said to her, look, I said, you could be with a doctor, you could be with a lawyer, all this shit, whatever. I said, you need to know this is what I'm doing. And I said, you need to talk to your mother or whoever the fuck it is you need to talk to, but I'm doing this. And I said, and I could be well off in my 30s or 40s, or I could be broke in my 30s and 40s, but I'm doing this. And this is the life that I'm doing. And I obviously want you involved, but if you don't, I get it, but I just need to let you know. And to this day, that conversation still helps me.
Wow. So you knew you had a partner that was in it for you and not what you were doing.
Well,
like,
yeah. And listen, Yeah. And like, I know her mom was like, well, listen, that's a hard life. I don't blame the mother. The mother didn't know me. She didn't know who I was. The only people that knew what I was going to do was myself and probably close family members that knew, not to sound corny, but like what I was made of. Like, I knew what I was going to do because anything else was not even an acceptable, not making it or not getting good and better at something that I put my mind to, that I dropped out of college for, wasn't going to happen. And I knew the way the crowd was looking at me, even when I wasn't good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, when I wasn't good and I was still getting like laughs and the jokes were funny, but I mean good, like able to like really kind of make people think.
Yes.
And so she was like, I'm down, I'm down for the ride. And so that really helped and made it a lot easier for me. And then both of us grew in our professions, like her job, my job, and and that's what it is. So, but and family will never hurt you. A lot of people like, oh, is that hard? Like, comics are like, I want to have a kid. I'm like, have a kid. Like, that's an excuse. You're going to do what you're going to do anyway. Like, having a kid all that's going to do is make you live life and get better.
Well, yeah, because now you got another person you're responsible with. So you could see it could really light the fire under your ass.
Exactly.
In a very positive way, because
yeah.
we get to the end, it's like you want to, they always say like, did you do what you love? Did you take the risk? Did you, not let fear drive you? What are your kids? And sometimes if you're putting everything just into work and money and not having that life balance, you're going to get to that end and have a lot of regrets.
Yeah. It's, I always say, like, you can't beat the clock. And if you're doing everything that you want to be doing and you're living it the fullest, then I think that's really kind of makes the end easier.
Yeah.
Like, if you're
like, I'm good.
yeah, you're like, yeah, it's like you did all of those things. And I look at it like I dreamed about some of the things I was doing and nobody wanted me. I mean, when I tell you nobody wanted me at their festivals, nobody wanted me at their clubs. That's, a stereotypical Italian guy. They didn't know that I could like actually think and I was smart. It was more of like my look and I had energy. So I was that guy, and I remember some bookers being like, oh, Paul's funny, but he talks about sports too much. Oh, Paul's funny, but he talks about having a daughter too much. And it's like, no, I just had a daughter. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I'm talking about my life. That's my job.
Yeah. But just getting, I remember Bill Burr told me, along with some other people, like, if you get undeniable, that word is really something that can't be ignored, because if you get undeniable and somebody sees you doing that, then it's on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a good attitude, but you definitely, you can't force certain things. So you definitely were given that talent from God, if that's what you believe. But that's what I believe.
Well,
this was definitely a gift given to you as well. You're naturally good at it.
I appreciate that. And what'd you say? What was the last thing you just said?
You're
Oh,
naturally talented. You work hard, but you also have that thing. You've always had it.
I really appreciate that. And especially coming from you, who's a comedian, who's been in it. But yeah, I think that there's some truth to that. I think that there's definitely some sort of thing, like, listen, if somebody could jump high and dunk a basketball in 8th grade, you're like, wait a minute, there's something.
Yeah.
That's kind of not a normal, like, so, yeah, I think that there are certain people that are like, there's no way in the world Eddie Murphy wasn't going to be what Eddie Murphy is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the talent is just, there. And then people have different, different levels of it. But how long have you been doing stand-up, Madison?
Oh my God, 11 years.
11 years. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it though. It feels like the longest 11 years. No, it's been a good 11 years. But hopefully this is the year that things really start to break forward. No, it will be the year. I'm gonna make it the year.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right at the year where like 10 and a half was when I really found my voice.
Yeah.
Like it was like I thought that I had my voice, but like I mean like really the person you are off stage, on stage. Louis C.K. said that. He said when you're the person you are, like when you're the funny you off stage and you bring that normal, natural funny on stage, and it's like it really is like, of course you're always going to be like an exaggerated version.
Yeah.
But you'll be a little hype. You'll be you're going to talk with passion, but it's still you. You're going to feel that. You're going to be like, oh, this is not me trying to make them laugh. This is me being me and they're laughing. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
So it's like, I'm being me and they're laughing at it, as opposed to, let me try to make them laugh. That's the difference.
Right. And that's where you kind of go through. And that's maybe like when I was doing a lot of my jokes in the beginning, it was, a lot of the dirty stuff, the dating stuff, the dick jokes, vagina, the typical shit that you're like, oh, this will, get them to laugh. But now there's a lot, like when I go to write, it's not that quick punchline. It's more, it could be in it, but it's more of, things that frustrate me about being a woman. Like one of the things about me that people don't know is I hate being a woman. I hate it. I hate every aspect of it. The hair, the fucking makeup, the shoes, the shower, And so now it's writing all these feelings that I have, planning the day I'm going to wash my hair, the days of hair washing that week. I mean, this is real shit. And then also, being more of a tomboy, but looking like a feminine princess. Like as long as I don't open my mouth, like everybody will love me. But as soon as I start talking, everyone's like, don't bring her to the country club. So it's like I'm class on the outside, trash on the inside. So writing more of that because it's authentic. Like I have these two, very conflicting things. People see one thing, but I'm not that thing. So now it's digging deeper into that stuff. But I don't know. Hopefully I'll get a bunch of production stuff and then maybe I'll be doing stand-up. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll have more. I don't know. I'm just kind of going with the flow.
Well, that's it. That's all you could do is just go. Like somebody once said, this business takes you to where you're going to be or where you were going to be anyway. So if that means you doing both or doing one or whatever, or one dominates the other, but that's interesting, that confliction that you have within yourself. And that could be something that you develop an hour around, because that would be like, so if you were to talk to an agent, that would be what your sitcom would be, where you're this woman that looks a certain way and you think you're going to be this kind of, like prissy, stuck up blonde who's like wants to be like all of these like, finer things in life stuck up. And then you're really kind of just like one of the dudes who like is just like sports and stuff like that. That's what you build something around. Like that's what your hour would be. That's what the name of your hour would be, like something like that, because that's really like authentic to you. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting to people. And like, that's your story, and which is really nice.
Yeah. Right. Because it's, people sometimes will tell me, I know that in my life will say, just be yourself. I'm like, I am myself. Like, this is me. I just don't look like it. Like, I look like, it's like, it's the whole thing with, that's why my joke I had, I don't know if you ever heard it about, people tell me I look like a second wife. always hit because people would just crack up and they're like, oh, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I have this just cunty looking face, like all this stuff. I mean, I remember going to Greenwich and I thought of it because I'm like, I like Greenwich. I'd love to have a house in Greenwich. I feel like I look like the people at Greenwich. But I went to do the not in Greenwich, in Fairfield, the Fairfield Comedy Club, which I know you've done before. I love that room.
Yeah.
And we were doing the outside and I thought, well, I'm just going to open up with exactly how I'm feeling right now. And so my opening joke was like, hi, I know what you guys are thinking. They're like, wow, that girl really looks like she sucks dick in Greenwich. And it fucking killed because everyone's like, oh, she does.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you definitely have the look of like a Connecticut, like definitely you have a look of like a Connecticut, but the funny thing is like, you don't feel that way.
No, I like Coors Light and going to dive bars and
yeah.
You know, I'm just like just a normal girl, but I don't look normal. Like I had some woman we were talking, or a newer friend in Denver. She goes, you got to use more of your feminine energy. And I said, I've read books on that shit. And then I got halfway through and I said, fuck that. That's not me. Why do I have to change to attract something I'm not necessarily looking for? But yeah. Women are so conditioned to be like, oh, my business side is masculine to get ahead and do this. And then I've got to be the feminine damsel in distress. And I'm like, whoa, society is all backwards. Like, this is crazy. So I'm going to work on something about that masculine, feminine energy, because that's a fine line too.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And I think that's a great story. That's like if I was an agent, I mean, I'm not, but if I would know what networks are looking at, and like, that's like, someone's like, oh, what is Madison's sitcom around? It would be that, because the whole thing would be the way you look compared to the way you feel and the way you act and what you want to do. And you can build an hour of stand-up like that and talk about that. You know, I think the looking like a second wife is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, it's hilarious. But yeah, no, that's great that you're doing production stuff too. I mean, and that you're investing in crypto, like all this stuff you're doing, man.
Yeah. You know what? It's just the eggs. I remember talking like the eggs in multiple baskets. I remember having a conversation with my manager and I was getting creative and learning a bunch of different things. And I was just letting the wind take me. And I had, you know, a couple ideas for some things. And I said, you know, now's the time to do it. Called up some patent attorneys. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. You can do everything, right? This is your life. You were given your thoughts, your ideas for a reason. And I said, you know how much easier it is for me to sell all my TV shows when I don't need the money? And he goes, it's exactly right. You know, if you're a millionaire going into Netflix trying to sell a show, they're gonna sense that confidence and that feeling of, I don't fucking need you. I'd like to have you, but I don't fucking need you. Either way, I'm going home to this massive house.
Yeah.
It's that desperation in anything you do that people sense subconsciously, and then they just go, ow, I don't know if I want to be a business.
That's 100%. You know, I remember that's, you know, my wife. So the crazy thing about my wife is my wife and I went to rival high schools almost in the same town, but rival high schools. And I didn't know her. I actually dated her best friend from middle school. Oh, because her best friend from middle school went to my high school. So all I heard about was her name through my girlfriend. Oh, me and Stacy went to junior high together. I'm going to hang with her. Me and Stacy. So I always heard Stacy from the girl that I was dating because they went to the same middle school. But then when you broke off, I ended up going to the high school of her friend, and she went. So long story short, she kept popping in my life. Then I was a busboy at a restaurant. She was best friends with the manager there. She just kept popping in my life, right? But when I moved to Queens, she moved to Jersey City, and we were just friends, and I wanted more. So for like 5 months, I'm like, let's go to the movies. Okay, yeah, but I'll drive you home. No, you don't have to drive me home. Like, she didn't want to do that. And I'm going like, and I remember one weekend she was away, and I told my older brother, I go, you know what? Like, I'm trying, and like, we're friends, and like, we had like hooked up and fooled around a couple of times, but never like, you know, like I wanted a relationship.
Yeah.
And I just told my brother, it was frustrating me. My brother goes like, all right, whatever, who cares? It's her loss. Like, and it just like clicked something. I'm going, yeah. And I was totally done. Like it was the weirdest thing. It just got out. I'm going like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't need, like, I'm trying and everything is good. And but like, I'm the one trying. And that weekend she texted me, "I miss you." And that was the first time that she had. So it's the same. It also is the same thing in like, anytime you have a thing where it's like, I don't need you. And it goes back full circle to what we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. When you don't need industry the way today you don't need industry.
Right.
Right? I don't need these comedy clubs as much as I did, but now they're starting to follow me because I'm going to get the comedy clubs that already wanted me. But now other ones that didn't really want to fuck with me, now they want to fuck with me.
Exactly.
Right? And they start to see that, and then they start to realize, oh, he's not going to care as much, you know? So, and I'm, you know, I am a little prideful. Something that I have to get over is that, like, it's not, I said before, it's not always personal, but I like to let people know that I know you fucked me once, like, you know?
Yeah, right. You're like, I won't forget that.
I know, like, we could do business and be fine, but I know what you did to me. You know what you did to me, or at least how you treated me.
Yeah.
And, you know, but again, the act will speak for itself, the way you treat people. You know, I always say, be undeniable and treat people the way you want to be treated. And you really can't lose that way. That's how, you know, that's how I look at it, you know? So my attitude has always been, I want to kill on stage, and I'm going to treat people the way that I want to be treated. And hopefully that's good enough.
And that's the Virzi effect.
And that's the Virzi effect. That's what you get. Yeah, that's the Virzi effect. Yeah. There you go.
This podcast. God, I feel like we should end there. That was just a random thought, but I was like, okay, we've been jamming for a while. Like, we got to wrap. I don't know how to wrap this up. This has been such a good conversation. I could take this for like 3 hours, then all of a sudden it hit. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just, you know, people always remember how you make them feel. So always be cautious of that. But also don't be sassy either, because or too sensitive, because sometimes how somebody might come off to you that day has nothing to do with you. Usually it actually does have nothing to do with you. They could have gotten in a fight with their girlfriend or boyfriend or wife, and then you say hi. Well, you're going to take it. You know?
Yeah, we're hypersensitive to that. That's why we're good at what we do. That's why we can do comedy, but that also hurts us in personal life because we're hypersensitive to everything that we see. So everything that we see and do is almost magnified and under a mic, so much different than other people. That's why we could go on stage and talk about it that way, because we take it harder because we are more sensitive. But that can also go to like it made me think of that Key and Peele text message sketch, where he was like, yeah, I'll meet you at the bar, whatever. And he goes, whatever? The fuck does that mean? You know, and like so one guy was going like, yeah, like come to the bar whenever, like being nice. And the other guy's taking it like, whatever. Like, so also he doesn't want to hang out. Like I'm a burden, you know? And as comics, we definitely do that. But I will say, like, I do hold the grudge in a way that I wish that I didn't. My wife says, like, that's one of my biggest things that she wishes I could fix about me is if somebody does me wrong once, I can be civil with them, but in my mind, I'll always like, you're not coming to my house to be around my kids. It's fucked up. And I wish that I could, and I'm trying to like break free from it. You know, there's a comedian, I can't mention a name, but we have a good chemistry when we work together on sketches, on films, or like on certain things that we do on tape, I should say, on video. And he said something once that still bothers me. And if he didn't say that, we'd probably like work together more. And I'm really having a hard time. I'm like, I'm a lunatic, but I'm like, so now, yeah, I'm fucking, but it is what it is. So
it happens. But also, you know, sometimes it's that you don't want to totally get rid of that necessarily. Because you want to follow your gut too. You know, if somebody kind of, as you in your terms, did you dirty, so to say, you want to figure out like, well, what is it that they did? How bad is it? And then on that scale, you determine if you should let it go or not. You should let it go, and then I'll be. Don't eat you up, but don't. But you know what I mean. You also don't want to let people in, because I used to do this where somebody would say something and it would make me mad, and I was like, "Fuck you," no. But I would say it not to them, like when I would get off the phone, I'd be like, and I would keep going back to brainstorm or work with them on something. And then finally I got to a point where I go, no, I don't want to work with this person. I don't like the way I feel when I'm on a conversation with them. And I said, done.
Yeah. And I remember there's a show on Sirius XM radio. And I'm like, that host, I don't like that, and then all of a sudden I realized like they were fantastic to me and loved me. So it was like, it was me. It was something that I kept in, and I was just like, you make these lies in your head about something, and it's like, no, like I remember one time I was like, you know what? Fuck that agency. And when I blow the fuck up, that agency, I'm going to tell them, this is what in my mind, fuck that agency. And when I blow up, I'm going to be at a party with them. And I'm going to walk over with a glass of champagne or whatever it is that I'm drinking. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to gloat to them and say, you fucked up because I was going to work with you. And first of all, it's so ridiculously delusional on my part.
Well, we've all had that thought early on in our careers. It usually doesn't happen because then you start to understand like, okay, I get it. They're in business to make fucking money and they don't want to work that hard. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can make their job really easy. Like I don't bring anything to the table. So let's just get good. But so then when you did get that, you were probably like, yeah, I'm happy to work with you.
Yeah, no, it's really true. It's like, you can't blame somebody. I remember that same festival that I told you I got in Vegas.
Yeah.
One of the perks that you got if you won was they had a day where they would let you sit down with an industry professional and just talk and get a number and that stuff. So I end up getting Chris DePetta's number. Chris DePetta owns the Punchline in Atlanta.
Oh, I know Chris. Nice guy. Billy Gardell, right?
Yeah, Billy Gardell's man. So I told him this story. And here's the best part. We laugh about this now because I always work the Punchline and he'll come out and say hi. So we have this good laugh. But Chris DePetta was like a table would open. It was almost like speed dating, right?
Yeah.
Except you didn't have to get up in a minute, but it was like that. Like something opens and you sit down and Chris DePetta was the person. It's like 2003, 2003, I believe. And I sit down with Chris DePetta. Now I'm like 3.5 years into comedy.
Yeah.
Barely getting up, killing though. So I go in front of him. I'm sitting there, he goes, hey, and blah, blah, blah. I'm Chris DePetta. I own it. And I just start going like this to him. I go, I just don't get it. I go like, I'm killing. And like, nobody's coming up to me. Like, I said something and he kind of like almost rolled his eyes. Like he almost was like disgusted and like who the fuck? And he just leaned in and he goes, listen to me. He goes, people are going to come to you like when it's time for them to come to you when you're ready. He said that to me. And I'm thinking like, all right, like was he kind of a jerk? Like, because in my mind, I'm going, he doesn't see what I'm doing. He doesn't see that the crowd loves me and that I got presence. But
right.
I'm so new that he should have said that to me. He was actually probably too nice to me where he's going, Paul, listen, people are going to, when it's time, they're going to come to you. Like, and he kind of had this, oh, here we go thing. So now we laugh because I go, do you remember? Because I work his club I work his club twice a year now. And like, he comes out one of the nights and sits and watches me. Like we're really cool. He called me during pandemic. So it was just funny to you have these things in your mind, but it's like, no, when you get to where you got to go, then listen, you got to bring something to the table for somebody to give a shit. Right.
Yes, that's true. And also timing is everything in life. And that's what sucks is that we can't control timing and it doesn't work on our schedules. So it's like the timing kind of has to be right. And with comedy, it takes a long time to get good. I remember thinking 2 years in, I was like, I'm never going to make it in this business. But yeah, you're fucking 2 years in. TikTok didn't exist. OnlyFans wasn't around. I was screwed. It was an uphill battle the whole time.
Yeah. No, we have these things and we're kind of hypocrites too, right? Because if somebody reached out to me and said, hey, Paul, can I do your podcast? And I didn't know them or they were like new, that's a tough thing for me to say yes to because it's like, I don't like know you and you're new and I believe in you. You're coming up and I love your eagerness.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you got to just wait a little bit. And then now they're not going to like me.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be like, Paul Virzi, man, he was nice, but he's kind of a dick because I asked to do his podcast. I mean, unless, so it is that. I just think that, I just think what you said, timing is everything. And things will happen when they're supposed to. Maybe you may get things a little later than you should, but when you do get them, like I'd rather be ready, right? You'd rather be ready and maybe a little impatient I think somebody said, it might've been Patrice O'Neal again, rest his soul. Like you get things 3 years after you're supposed to. And whether that's true or not, at least if that is true, when you do get it, you're ready, right? You've been prepared. Like you've been groomed for it.
Like, you know how to handle it. I think with
Yes.
success coming too early, and you see it with, pop stars and stuff, because they start very early, that they get very fucked up from it. Too much, too fast, too soon. I always laugh with my friends. I said, everything, God's got my back, because if I would have gotten like super successful at 25, I would be such a cunt. It wouldn't even be funny. But because it's like being broke was like humbled you out, made you see, gave you a new perspective, made you realize what was important. You didn't need to impress people with shit you couldn't afford. It was a really good thing. So when it does finally happen, you know how to manage it better. You know how to like handle it. You know how to not let it affect you as a person.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that, if when I was coming up, if I started to really pop in like my early mid 20s, I think I would have drank a lot. Who knows about like cocaine? I mean, I don't think so, because I was always afraid to, but like maybe dabbling more, drinking late nights, hangover in the morning, maybe affecting my art, affecting my craft. And like, if I like, sometimes I think like if I didn't have a family and I started to have success and I'm starting to, go out and chase women and drink and do all those things and not have the grounded, stable life that I have, that could hurt too. And I've seen that too. So I think like the appreciation and the hard work and getting there, it's like, then you see like, okay, like I'm groomed for it now, as opposed to flash in the pan. Everything gets handed to you at 25. You make some money, but then like now you either got to put the work in or you're going to fuck off. That's the difference,
Exactly. So it's everything kind of happens for a reason, right?
I believe, some people get crazy with this when you say it. I believe that, God and a higher power, whatever that is, has helped guide me. I've seen things happen like that. I've felt things, and, I'm definitely like, I'm very happy and humbled for everything. I don't take for granted anything. I did do the work. So I will pat myself on the back knowing that I did the work, and I did everything that I can do. And I reasonable to not put myself in a horrible situation to hurt myself. But I did the things that I needed to do. And I think, with talent and hard work and everything, I'm humbled to be where I'm at, man. And I'm not even close to where I want to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what the future holds for you. So before we wrap up, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah. So if you guys want to check out, I do a podcast called The Virzi Effect. And now all the full episodes are on my YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to. It has stand-up. It has the Virzi Effect on there. I also do a podcast that has its own YouTube channel with Bill Burr. It's called Anything Better. We talk sports, but then it just goes off the rails and we talk everything, kind of like what me and Madison just did here today. So you could check out Anything Better. You could check out the Virzi Effect, my special. We're going to be shooting another special and all of my tour dates. When does this come out, by the way, this podcast?
Tomorrow.
Okay, so
tax day. Yeah, happy tax day, everybody.
April 22nd through the 24th, I will be at the Addison Improv right outside of Dallas. May 20th through the 23rd, I will be at Side Splitters in Tampa. So if you Texas or Florida people listen to this, come out to a show. This is the best hour I've ever done. A lot of it is going to be my new special. I'm going to be in Austin in June, Salt Lake City in June. So all the dates are on paulvirzi.com. And I really appreciate you having me, Madison. I really do. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, definitely you guys check him out if you're in the area. Go see him at a show. He's hilarious. You won't be disappointed. It'll be worth risking COVID for.
And I'll be fully vaxxed. I'll be fully vaxxed soon. I didn't know if I was going to do it. I was literally online for the first shot, texting people going, am I doing the right? I swear to God, I'm online. Like I was like 10 people like to go, and I'm texting and I'm going like, should I? And then I did the Moderna, the first one.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a comic, I was able to, since you're working at a comedy club, you were able to get one like for the entertainment, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? And I trust my doctor, and my doctor's the one to go, listen, you need the flu shot this year or you don't. There have been times where he's like, listen, it's up to you. I could tell you this year, you might not. Then there have been years where he goes, this year, if you get the flu, it's bad, get it. I trust him. He's like hilarious. He's got like OCD like me. My doctor's hilarious. So I just said, Doc, what do you think? And he goes, any of the three get. So I did the Moderna. So I'll be fully vaxxed when I come to your city. So I could take a picture with you. So if I'm not, I wasn't doing meet and greets this whole time. People are like, do you mind? But I'll sign shit. I'll come out to a show. I'll be fully vaxxed. Hopefully you're fully vaxxed. Don't lie, but it doesn't matter because I'll be protected. So
there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or like me, just had COVID and I have the antibodies.
And I'm gonna do the fans only. No.
Well, yeah, the OnlyFans. You'll be dipping your balls in chocolate or vanilla, whatever it is. Oh my God.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah. Paul and everybody else listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Next to Madison, and we'll see you guys next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.